I'd like to introduce you to Cole & Son's latest collection called Folie. In the studio we kind of felt that we wanted to do something a little bit more organic and floral. So we've come up with a series that really were inspired by two wonderful documents which we sort of acquired. And these are sort of French toile de jouy style documents featuring gardens, parks, landscapes. So first of all, we have this design called Villandry, based on Chateau of Villandry in Paris. One of the features of French gardens was that they liked to include things like menageries, animals, old Chinese pagodas, obelisks. We liked this feel, sort of had a bit of a narrative to it. So we've done this design in 4 colourways, sort of fabulous blue, dove grey, the charcoal, and then the classic red, one of the classic colourways of the French toile de jouy. Next up we have parterre. Parterre is a name for a classic symmetrical garden design, and this is quite a simple little design. Because the collection is full of quite complicated designs, we wanted to do something a little bit calmer, with a little bit more space in it, that echoes the kind of garden trellising that you might have within these gardens. We have here this lovely green colourway, but then some more muted tones, the sort of French grey, sort of lovely blue, charcoal, stone, a red, and then this wonderful metallic as well. All of those designs have this little thin metallic thread running through them, which just gives it a little bit of a sort of decorative and sort of interesting detail. This design is hand painted in the studio. We set great store by producing our own artwork. We wanted to give it our own feel, and we wanted to soften it with the use of nice crumbling frescoed artwork, if you like. Next up we have parterre border, and we felt that it would be really lovely to design a series of borders which coordinate directly with the paper. So here we have this lovely green colourway which sits with the green paper, and we've coloured them in reverse so you get this sort of dynamic between the sort of positive and negative colouring. So of the 7 colourways there, we have a direct coordinate with all of the papers, and this is parterre border. It's a wide width frieze, 40 centimetres high, which will look fabulous at the top of a room or above a dado rail. Now we come to Folie, which is a wonderful all-over trail design featuring rhododendron blossoms, which was a big feature of French gardens. One of the great things about Cole & Son is that we have a wealth of archive material at our disposal. And so for this design we were able to draw on something that we found in our archive that seemed very suitable. We recoloured it, rescaled it slightly, and these would originally have been block prints, but in order to reproduce the design we see here, we've actually surface printed it. So it still retains that lovely sort of textural feel on the surface, and again done in these sort of really beautiful rich colours. We have 4 colourways here: carmine and emerald, soft coral and olive, and then this rather wonderful series of white blossoms on a lemon yellow and a duck egg blue ground. Bagatelle is another archive-based design. One of the features of French gardens and follies was a big sort of Chinese influence, Oriental influence. So there were a lot of pagodas, bamboo, etc. used in these places. And again, we found in our archive this really charming bamboo trellis design, which we've redrawn and scaled up to a more comfortable scale. This is one of our artwork pieces here. And this comes in 5 lovely soft colourways of ivory, stone, duck egg, a natural sort of olive green, and then this sort of rather lovely Chinese yellow. Versailles Grande. Versailles, very well-known palace outside of Paris, famed for its fantastic gardens as much as the palace itself. And again, one of the features of these classic bourgeois French gardens was that they had menageries featuring all manner sort of animals, exotic animals, which they showed off within the gardens. This design comes from the second of our toile de jouy fabric documents which we've acquired, and it really is a sort of wonderful, very old, classic French document here. But what's really special about it is that it's actually based on French fables, stories and little cameos which have some sort of moral undertone. The original document actually has some slightly more scary images, which we've actually taken out. So we've made the whole thing a little bit more gentle, but essentially what we've printed is the same as the document. We've coloured it quite intensely, so it becomes this big scenic panoramic paper. We've done it in two colourways, sort of lovely sort of autumnal mulberry and copper toned colourway, and then a sort of fresher spring-like pink and lime green colourway. That's Versailles Grande, which, as you may be able to tell from the name, is a large-scale Versailles. We've actually done it as a more normal scale as well, a smaller scale, closer to the original document. And we've done this as a simpler pattern, just as a single colour line work, echoing the copperplate engraving which the original would have had. We've done this in 4 colourways, a sort of lovely coral on a linen background, a soft charcoal on an ivory ground, wonderful greyed-off purple on a linen ground again, and then this lovely sort of soft chalky duck egg on a chocolate ground. So this comes at a much smaller, more manageable scale, if you like, and is still an absolutely fantastic wallpaper. Tivoli is just a very beautifully drawn floral trail featuring butterflies and the occasional hummingbird. This was drawn in-house, the studio, so it was started from scratch. We have 4 colourways here, rather lovely yellow with a subtle grey, grey with lovely stone colour, and then this rather wonderful sort of copper tone metallic on the French grey, and then a more striking indigo, and finally a classic red. Just a very beautiful, quite a feminine design in many ways. Would look fantastic in bedrooms. Louis panel. In keeping with the French theme, one of the things that we've noticed in a lot of the French palaces and buildings, and even nowadays, the sort of wonderful wooden panelling evident everywhere. And I suppose it's in a King Louis style. And we really wanted to try and emulate this as a wallpaper in a sort of subtle way, but a way that made it look very French, but very smart and elegant at the same time. So we've done 3 wonderful colourways, very, very subtle ivory, lovely French grey again, and then a more taupey kind of colour. And this was done from scratch within the Cole & Son studio. Rousseau is a charming little design. This is a lovely cartouche-based wallpaper. That is wallpaper designed in sort of little oval cameos featuring little scenes. And these feature exotic palm trees, plants and animals, all sitting, all sort of painted in a very painterly, watercoloured way, but sitting on this lovely sort of craquelure ground. A very charming design in 5 colourways. This wonderful sort of cobalt blue, which was a classic glaze colour of the time. Lovely dove grey, very smoky looking charcoal, an old olive, and then a sort of surprising rose pink here, just because we felt it was fun. Now, to go with this design, which is a fairly all-over pattern, we created a border from it, and the border coordinates directly with the 5 wallpaper colours. It can be used alone, or it can be used with the paper. It's a wide width border, it's 52 centimetres wide, which means it could even look fantastic placed around the bottom of a room, below a dado rail. It's almost quite Delft-like, I suppose, echoing Dutch Delft tiles. Again, put onto the similar sort of craquelure ground, so it coordinates directly with the paper. But as an addition, we've actually done 2 craquelure plain papers, which can be used on their own or with the border. We've just done 2 colourways of this design. Trianon, we've called it. So we have Rousseau border, Rousseau paper, and then Trianon, which has been done in a sort of lovely ivory, and then a sort of a warmer parchment colour. These look fantastic together, they really do. Broderie border. Again, we've borrowed from our archive and found this wonderful old pattern book full of French and English traditional hand-painted borders. Looking through it, we found this sort of wonderful edge here. We didn't want to do the whole thing, so we've just taken the edge literally and created this little ribbon border, if you like. It's just like a little bit of trimming that you would use on a fabric, created in 4 colourways to echo the colour themes that run throughout the collection. Fontainebleau, again possibly a name familiar to many of you, based on one of the grand palaces in France. This was another one of our document designs, and again we found this in an old drawer. It was in fragments, so we had to make up a little bit of the design because we just simply didn't have it. Just a wonderful sort of tree of life, exuberant pattern. In full colour, we've done 2 colourways, wonderful sort of red, scarlet and emerald, and then this more subtle duck egg ground with rose pinks on top of it. This really is a feature wallpaper, creates a real sense of drama within a room. Finally, we have Marley. Again, we didn't want the collection to be too busy. We wanted to introduce, a bit like parterre trellis, a bit of calmness and sort of serenity. So we devised this beautifully elegant wide width stripe, created again within the studio and painted with a sort of wonderful brush marky, soft watercoloured feel. So it gives the design a real softness, interspersed with this little ribbon of metallic just to give it glamour. In 4 colourways, lovely duck egg and neutral, pale blue and neutral, soft lavender and neutral. And then again, because yellow's been a colour that we've tried to introduce a little bit into this collection, we finish with this lovely yellow.